Hello, friends. My name is Mrs. Spejo from Futureology,
And I'm Kate Strzelecki from CollegeWise.
and today in our presentation, we'll be talking about the UC essays, also known as the UC PIQs. In this presentation, we'll dive deep into what the UCs are looking for in your answers for their essays. But first, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. Again, my name is Ms. Erica Espejo. I attended Loyola Marymount University and San Francisco State University, and I also read for UC Irvine. I evaluate applications for UC Irvine. I read about thousands of UC essays per year, so I'm more than happy to share my insight on the UC essay questions.
And I've been in college admissions since 2008, working for a variety of different universities. Currently, I work out of our Newport Beach office for CollegeWise, counseling families and students on the application process.
All right, so what is a college essay? A college essay is a personal statement written response that admission readers will take into consideration for college admissions. This is all about you. This is you outside of your GPA, outside of your classes, and this is a way for college admissions readers to get to know you a little bit more. This helps college admissions readers understand who you are again outside of your GPA, outside of class rank, and so forth. And this kind of gives us who is this person behind this application? Who is this person behind the GPA? So this gives us an idea of who you are personally, and it gives you an opportunity to expand more on your story and more of your academic and personal journey getting to this point here. This is your personal story in your own words, and it is all about you. You are the star of your essay. So definitely take all these into consideration when you're thinking about what you want to write about your essay, because this is going to be your personal narrative. This is going to be your personal story of what the admission readers are going to want to know about you in the application. So in regards to the UCs, they have the UC Personal Insight Questions, otherwise known as the PIQ. You're definitely going to be hearing the acronym PIQ throughout fall. UC PIQ, PIQ this, PIQ that, and that is just a shorthand acronym for the Personal Insight Questions, otherwise known as the UC Essays. There are 8 different UC PIQ prompts. You only need to choose 4 out of that 8 to answer. And there's no preference for the UC PIQs, which prompt you choose. Choose whichever prompt can best fit what you want to convey in your application and how you want to convey your personal story. So pick the 4 that is best going to suit you in the application. So a quick tip about the UC PIQs. The UC application allows you to apply to all or any of the 9 UCs. Your responses should not single out any UC because all UCs will be reading your essays. So if your dream school is, for example, UCLA, don't single out UCLA in your essays because there is one application for all UCs, and all UCs, if you apply to 4, 5, or all 9, they're going to read all your responses to the UC PIQs. All right, so then how do admissions read essays? So for the UC PIQs, the writing style for the UC PIQs is going to be different than, say, the common application. For the UC PIQs, think of the PIQs as more of an interview style type of question. When you're doing your responses, you're going to use a lot of I messaging. I accomplished this. I learned this. This is what I got out of this experience. It's very self-reflective, and imagine when you're working on your responses is as if you and I were having coffee, and what would you tell me about you when we're having coffee or tea together? What is your personal story? And tell me more about yourself in these UC PIQs. The UC PIQs are relatively shorter than, say, the common application essay. These are about 350 words or less. These are very direct, very matter of fact. Less is more, but not too less. And again, for UC essays and for essays in general, think show, not tell. Provide concrete examples. Don't be vague in your answers. Definitely just provide direct examples of your accomplishments, achievements, and also what you also learned when you're conveying yourself in that essay. Okay.
How is your writing used in admissions valuations? So remember, when we're reviewing applications, we look at the entire application itself. We're going to look at your GPA. We're going to look at what courses you've taken throughout your college history. We're also going to look at those letters of recommendation and then also these PIQs. So like Erica shared, this is about your values, your interests, and skills, and what can you bring to their school? What kind of student are you going to be on campus? This also is an opportunity for them to understand your journey, understand if anything happened during high school that really had a big effect on you personally or academically. This also lets them know that you've done your research on maybe your major of interest, or maybe also that you've done your research on staying in California at a UC school and why you want to go to one of those schools. This is all going to be reflected in these PIQs. Here's just a few do's and don'ts of this college essay writing. So do this. We already talked about spelling out those acronyms. They want it to be conversational. This isn't an essay that's going to be judged on using really big words and exact grammar. We want it to be simple and clean and, of course, professional. Don't do this. Creative writing. This isn't really a place for us to see an essay example or maybe a poem that you wrote. We don't want to really have an idea about a philosophy or a title. It has some storytelling, but we just don't want to get too over the top with our stories. And again, please make sure it's professional. Limit the jokes and sarcasm. I'm going to start with UC PIQ number 1. Now remember, there's no preference of which PIQ you choose. You want to choose the PIQ that speaks most to you and that you could really tell a good story when you're answering this question. We talked about that the average, the word count for a PIQ is 350 words. We don't want to be much under that 350. If it comes out to about 300, that sounds great. But please don't submit an essay that's only 100 words. When the application committee reviews that, they're really going to think you didn't put a lot of effort into it. So let's get started with PIQ number 1. Describe an example of your leadership experience in which you have positively influenced others, helped resolve disputes, or contributed to a group effort over time. I've had a lot of great students respond to this PIQ. This is for a student that has done maybe a lot in their community, or they've done a lot for a club or organization within their school walls. Maybe you founded a club and then grew it to maybe 30, 40 members. Maybe you did a lot of fundraising at school and really provided something to your community. All of these things can be reflected in PIQ number 1.
Okay, I will go over PIQ number 2. Every person has a creative side and can be expressed in many ways. Problem solving, original and innovative thinking, artistically to name a few. Describe how you express your creative side. So for this one, for my creative folks out there, my artsy folks, this probably might be the one to consider responding to. You can talk about your experience within the creative arts. I know we have at San Clemente High School, we have a very thriving arts program within theater, within design, and so forth. So you can also talk about your experience participating in those activities here. In our previous video, talk about extracurricular activities. And in the extracurricular activities section, you pretty much just have a very small space to just list your responsibility and roles. And here you can also provide concrete examples how you've contributed to said activities in this section as well. This is not limited to just the creative students in participating in creative arts, but if you have, for example, if you have like a very unique way of problem solving, or if you have a way or a creative way to focus, or a creative way to study, this is also another place where you can also express that as well. So you can use this section to just write about participation in creative arts within high school, or if you have a unique way of approaching a problem or a unique approach to studying or focusing in the classroom, this is also a great one to consider for one of your 4 PIQs.
PIQ number 3. What would you say is your greatest talent or skill? How have you developed or demonstrated that talent over time? This one, you can use a lot of different ideas, both inside the classroom and outside. For some students, this might be a hobby that they've really that they focused on. It could be a cooking class that you might have taken, and now that this is something that you not only showcase to your friends and family, but maybe you cook on the side and you have a baking business or make cupcakes for birthday parties. You can also do this focus more on academics. It might be maybe you're a coder and you're focused on computer science, and that you've really developed different coding skills throughout your years. And this might be something that you now teach at a coding academy for students in the summertime. We want to hear about something that you are interested in. So don't feel like it has to be that you can stand on your hands or do 100 push-ups. Think about something that interests you and that you probably also want to take with you to college. Again, this is about what kind of student are you going to be on their campus.
Okay, the next PIQ prompt is prompt number 4. Describe how you have taken advantage of a significant educational opportunity or worked to overcome an educational barrier you have faced. So, if your example are in a program such as the IB or the AP academic programs here at the district, this is also something you can talk about. Like perhaps there was a challenging AP or IB course that you had to take and you wanted to take that risk in taking that course. Or if you're taking one of our CCA or career technical education classes, this is also a space where you can expand upon that experience as well. If you take in a summer program such as UC Cosmos or anything related to that, you can also convey that here as well. What you should likely convey in this section is a love of learning for a particular topic or a subject in this section. It does not necessarily need to be related to perhaps what you want to major in, but perhaps shows that you have a love of learning for a particular topic. You can also talk about educational barriers you have faced within that context as well. So if you were, for example, struggling in an AP or an IB course, but you ended up getting better and you found ways to improve and you found ways to overcome said challenges, this is also a space where you can write about that as well. So definitely think about like some educational opportunities that have come to you, whether it be AVID, taking higher level courses, dual enrollment, CCA courses, summer programs. This is a section that you can use to expand upon that experience and just talking about how you got into that experience, what you learned from that experience, and again, providing concrete examples of what you've done to also show a love of learning. Perhaps it was a project you've done in that class, perhaps it was a particular contest that you participated in. I know we have a very robust robotics program here at our district. So also just talking a lot about those topics and showing a love of learning within this section, and also talking about beyond the classroom here and talking about like how you are also continuing to show that love of learning.
PIQ number 5, describe the most significant challenge you have faced and the steps you have taken to overcome this challenge. How has this challenge affected your academic achievement? Now, this can be looked at many different ways. They really open this up to, they don't explain that it has to be a significant or specific challenge either personally. They don't explain that it has to be one academic. They don't explain that it has to be something social. They really give you an open-ended question here to talk about any challenge you've faced in the past few years. Now, I would encourage you that unless there is a very different circumstance, that you don't mention COVID during this question. So in that case, We do want to look at this question as it can be a illness, it can be a family situation, you could have switched high schools, you could have something going on emotionally or physically. All of these things can be described in this challenge one. I would also encourage you to really focus on the second part of this question. It's not only what is the challenge, but let's focus on what did you do with that challenge? How did you overcome it? What steps did you take? Did you maybe trip and fall a couple times? So did you try to overcome it? Maybe your first solution didn't work. Maybe you had to come up with something else. And then also, how has this affected your academic achievement? So whatever challenge this might be, which semester of school do you feel like you really got hit hard on your grades, or you didn't have time to study as much or focus? This is where you want to showcase exactly what happened in your situation, the challenge that you faced, how you overcame it, and then academically what happened. And again, hopefully you can showcase that you used all of these skills to make you a better student in the long run.
Okay, PIQ number 6. Think about an academic subject that inspires you. Describe how you furthered this interest inside or outside the classroom. So, again, it doesn't necessarily need to be major related, but it can be. But think about a particular topic that is of interest to you. Maybe you saw something on TikTok or YouTube that you found very fascinating. And definitely you can talk about what got you into that topic and how you discovered a love of learning for this particular topic. Maybe it manifested as a club. Maybe it encouraged you to take related classes in high school, or perhaps a dual enrollment class at Saddleback or IVC. So again, this is another prompt that also demonstrates a certain kind of love of learning, and also just kind of seeing like, what is your engagement within learning about new things, learning about particular topics outside the classroom. What motivates you to learn, and what are some particular topics that are of interest of you that also have inspired you to pursue a love of learning? So again, for example, this can start off as just something as simple as I learned something on YouTube, I learned about something on TikTok, and this is how I continue to demonstrate my love of learning by perhaps there was a CCA course offered in a particular topic, or perhaps there was a dual enrollment class at Saddleback that I wanted to take that would help me further my interest, or perhaps a free online course to show me more about this particular topic. So again, this also demonstrates a love of learning, and also just shows the admissions readers what motivates you to learn, and how do you keep your interest up, and how do you pursue that love of learning?
PIQ number 7. What have you done to make your school or community a better place? Now, this is an excellent question for students that have spent a lot of time out of the classroom. And it might be in the form of Boy Scouts and you had an Eagle Scout project. You might just do a lot of volunteer work at your church. There can be so many different things that you do in your community. Some of my favorites have been volunteering. I had a student that was volunteering at one of the food shelters, and they were doing this with their brother. So not only were they showcasing their ability to build a relationship and spend time with family, but also giving back to the community. And they also talked about all the great people they got to know along the way. So all the people in the community that they became friends with, they saw every week when they volunteered, and those relationships they built. You can do a lot with this question. I have a lot of students also talk about giving back. Again, maybe you do an activity at the beach and clean up trash, or maybe you work at your church and volunteer with your local youth group. All of these things are really beneficial, and they show that you do care about everything in your surrounding community, and that you do things outside of school and outside of your academic interests. Make sure this showcases who you are, and also you can add in your family as well.
Okay, and the last but not least is PIQ number 8. Beyond what is already shared in your application, what do you believe makes you a strong candidate for admissions to the University of California? So, when we're looking at this PIQ here, we're thinking about the University of California as a whole. We're not specifically addressing this to a particular UC. So definitely understand that this is an open-ended question. And if you're applying to several UCs, all UCs will be reading this. The other thing to keep in mind that this is a very open-ended question. So if there is already a PIQ that already addresses what perhaps you want to answer in this section, stick with that PIQ. But however, just from personal experience, I've seen students expand upon their experience. For example, as a first generation student in this section, they expanded upon their personal experience as an ELL learner, English language learner in this section, or being a new immigrant to the United States and adjusting, and what was that like for them academically and socially. And you can also use this section if you feel that none of the prompts want to address part of your personal story that would be important in the application for us in admissions to get the full context and the full picture of you. You can use this section here to address any of that. So again, this is a very open-ended question. If you have questions on whether or not what you want to address in here might fit another one of the PMQs, just come to us at Futureology and we can guide you on to see if there's a prompt that would best suit that topic, or we can also guide you through on how to answer this PIQ number 8. All right, just a few things before we wrap up. Always have someone look at drafts of your essays. And you can talk to a teacher, you can even talk to your counselor, you can talk to one of us here at Futurology. And in the fall, we'll be having Futurology essay workshops, and we'll also have like things during tutorial, events during tutorial where we can take a look. We will have our future ready dates where we can also take a look at your essays, and we will also provide free one-on-one essay reviews in the fall. So you can schedule an appointment with us to have an essay review session. We just ask that you submit your drafts before you come to us first, so we can go over your drafts in our one-on-one appointments. And remember to keep your responses under the word limit. So again, with the UC essays, you're going to stick under 350 words. And again, this is going to be shorter than the common application, so be cognizant about your word count. And again, because the UC PIQs, because they're very conversational, and because these are more like your interview questions for the UCs, read your essay to yourself out loud. Read your essay to yourself in the mirror. Is this conversational? Is this a conversation that we're having over coffee or tea? Because remember, the UCs use a lot of iMessaging, and also keep in mind to provide concrete examples of your accomplishments and achievements. And concrete examples are like listing, like, here's a quick story or an anecdote about what I did to show leadership or how to show sportsmanship in this particular activity. Okay. Both Kate and I want to thank you so much for your time for watching this video. We're here to provide assistance and to help you at any time. If you have any questions, our email is below, cusd-futurology@capitalUSD.org. And again, this is Miss Erica Espejo and
Kate Straslecki from CollegeWise.
And thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope to see you soon.